Welcome to the Johnny Dell Football Academy podcast on the channel that's trying to answer the whys and hows of the game by talking through and dissecting game film and diving deeper to explain why the X's zig and the O's zag. I am Adam Marino, joined by Mr. Johnny Dell, and we are reminding you, as always, the most fun way to watch is on YouTube, where we go live. There you can comment into the live show. Be sure to hit the notification bell and turn on your notifications so you can be a part of the conversation. We also stream live on Facebook and X. Also, the audio versions are always found on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, if you are live with us in the chat, it's probably because you are subscribed, you've hit the notification bell, and turned those notifications on. So, when sharing with your friends, be sure to let them know. We also love to hear from you outside of our live show. Email us at jonnydelsfootballacademy@gmail.com, and you can always check out the website jfa49.com, as it is the most fun way to support the channel. Also, the way we boost the chat and boost the algorithm is to type out hashtag JD49. Oh yeah, and thank you to Leo, Marcos, Mikey, Chatgun, Colin in the UK for boosting our algorithm. Welcome in, everybody. Be sure to hit the hashtag JD49. We're going to have some fun today. Johnny, how was your weekend? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It was a good weekend. My wife was able to come back from out of town, but I am still, as you see, broadcasting from Casa, Johnny, and so we're having a good time here. Got some stuff that I'm excited to look over today and get through.
Yeah, we're going to take a sneak peek at some little inside information for you guys, so stay tuned as the lovely Don Dell has entered the chat. Hello, Don.
Yeah, and it may even be my son on there because he was watching my wife's phone earlier.
Hey, buddy.
So,
nice.
Yeah, he was watching Wayne Breezy and John this morning and talking about it.
Nice.
In there. I think he was like, I know those guys. I remember seeing those guys.
That's so cool. That's what Bang Bang Niner Gang, that is what it's about, right? The gang's all here. All right, so I was interested to see what you had to say regarding this little snippet from 95.7. I will say I love listening to, as you know, both Johnny and I do not reside in the state of California. I used to. I'm from there, faithful to the Bay. And it is Don, she says. He is playing with cars, as is tradition. Tanks and history are coming up next, Don. So just be aware that he will be into that.
You know, it's so funny. My 7-year-old daughter, she came into my office like last week, and I have a little whiteboard in there, obviously, for all the football stuff I do. And she picked it up, drew a picture, and then turned around and showed me. And she goes, "Daddy, look!" And she drew a tank. I was so proud.
Yes.
It was a super proud moment. I didn't tell her to do it. I was like, I have to take a picture. This is one of those moments.
Yep, nerd alert. Love it. All right, so so I was gonna say I love, we don't live there, and so I get on iHeartRadio in the car, and I just throw it on, and you got Tom Tolbert, you got all the different shows, Papa, all those guys, and I just love listening. And so you're gonna show, right, a little clip of what Steve Young had to say, and it's regarding I call that like overall moxie, but Johnny, what do you think?
So this is a clip from Steve Young talking with 95.7 The Game there at the Dwight Clark Legacy Series, and this video is courtesy of the Wayne Breezy from X.
Power is a superpower. There are a few guys that I've seen through the years that can process like he does and can manage it, and then also is you saw the Super Bowl. It was like, in a way it was another game. It's just the way how their psyche deals with adrenaline. And some people's adrenaline, 99% of America, of the world are humans. When adrenaline comes, your heart rate goes up, your mind shrinks, and you become kind of fight or flight. There are some people where the adrenaline comes, the moment gets big, and they kind of like heartbeat goes down. And it's just an odd, and those are the guys that play great football and quarterbacks, because that's not a defensive end. No, that's different. Not a corner, not a linebacker, not a running back, but a quarterback. That is the thing that differentiates the great players. And so he has that.
Yeah, moxie, man.
Well, moxie, and like you said, that ability to stay calm in the middle of the biggest chaos that you can imagine. I just think back to last year's playoffs. It was the divisional round against the Packers, down late in the game, and they go on a 5-minute drive with 6.5 minutes left in the game to take the lead. Had not had the lead in the game at that point. Season is on the line. Like, you have had one of the best regular seasons and then one of the best rosters that the 49ers have had for 30 years, and feeling like it's about to go down the drain. All these months and year of work is about to just go down the drain. Doesn't phase him, goes down. And we're going to look at a few of those plays here in a little bit. But then you can say the same thing about the Detroit Lions game. Again, down 17 points at one point. And just to come back and to be calm through all of that and keep that ability to process and see the field. That was the thing that really drove everybody nuts about Tom Brady for so long, right? Is that no matter how many Super Bowls and championship games he was in, he was never phased, and it was always as calm as can be and focused, laser focused as it was. That was made Joe Montana so great. He was Joe Cool, that it didn't matter how big the moment was, how much they were down. Going back to college, he was that way. He talked about the chicken soup game, that there was a game he was playing at Notre Dame, and it was for the national championship, and he ended up having to get chicken soup at halftime because his body temperature had dropped and he was in mild hypothermia. Came back, or he had games where he would throw 5 interceptions and still come back to win the game. The catch that happened after in a game when he threw 3 interceptions. And just to be able to do what he did at the end of games and keep that focus and everything and be calm in those moments. You want a defensive end to just be wild, right? You just be a monster and disruptive and use that fight or flight. But you can't do that as a quarterback. It's very counterintuitive. Almost everybody else on the field can do that, can get into that zone where it's fight or flight, and they let that adrenaline affect them. But a quarterback cannot do that. And that's what's really fascinating. I did a research paper when I was in college on anxiety, that I was looking into it. And the data at the time was saying this, and everything I've seen since then has said that it's still true, that we understand anxiety, that it sharpens only to a point. So it sharpens the mental acuity, mental awareness, mental reaction to a point. And that is, for example, if you take a test in school, and this is one reason they do that, that they make you take a test, because a little bit of that anxiety and knowing that your grade is on the line will push the mind to sharpen a little bit. You retain more information. It's a little bit snappier, but it's a bell curve. So it heightens, and then to a point where if the anxiety continues to increase and the stress continues to increase, then you have a negative aspect. And this is where people will talk about, like, they're not a good test taker because they get overwhelmed by the idea of the test, and that it shuts the brain down, and people start becoming tunnel vision. Literally, when people are under really, really high stress, their vision will start to condense and they can't even see the entire world around them. If you've ever been under a really high stress situation, oftentimes it's like you're looking through binoculars, because it's such a tight vision window that it physiologically and in your brain, it does that. A quarterback, when they, under some of the highest stress situations where most people would become absolutely tunnel visioned, everything, muscles would get tight, they still have the ability, a guy like Brock Purdy, and that's what Steve Young is talking about, a superpower there, that you can then end up still being able to see the entire width of the field, still see what the safeties are doing, see what everything's doing, execute the plays at a high level. That is not common. That most people, there's a good chunk of our society that if they were to sit down in front of the ACTs when they're in high school, they get extremely stressed out, and they don't do nearly as well on the actual test as they did the practice test, because now it's for real and that anxiety kicks in. Now take this to the next level as some of the biggest games in football in the world, and still to be able to be calm in that is not normal. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah, the ability to say, "Is that John Candy?" You know, in the
Yeah.
Super Bowl with 3 minutes left and you're losing, and if you don't do what you need to do, you will lose the Super Bowl, and just to calmly go down and do that. So that's what we're
Arming.
um, so yes, he gets that calmness. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and that's not what his parents own a business, and they're
They
in
own it. They own
Arizona.
they own like a jacuzzi store,
Yeah, in
a hot tub
Arizona.
store, in Arizona. I think, John, he looks like a farmer. I mean, he just really looks like a guy that would just sit in a combine for 6 hours, at a time.
And during the bye last week,
Kali's, LeBron's catching strays.
man, he is sniper out here. But yeah, the bye week, he went back and helped on a farm, but that wasn't even in Arizona. Wasn't that in Iowa? And he went to college in Iowa.
Yeah, yeah. Because
So
they're, which this is an interesting point here with Kali, because if you think about the greats, like, and this is why the LeBron MJ argument continues to this day. Michael Jordan was always on it in crunch time.
yeah,
He was the same sort of people that are wired different, that they actually thrive. They can fit that zone, and what I talked about with the anxiety and the adrenaline and stress, it's a bell curve. They fit into that peak of the bell curve, so that when moments are at their biggest, they are at their prime execution point. That is not about necessarily how good somebody was in the regular season, even, or even in the first 2.5 quarters of a game, or the first 3 quarters. It's in that
yeah.
fourth quarter, in that prime moment, that their performance actually increases. They're wired a certain way. There are very, very few people that their maximum stress level is at the peak of the bell curve. That is where they hit 10 on the stress level, and it's like it stops there, that they don't have the downside on the other side of it. That is where these guys are wired differently, that no matter how high the intensity is ratcheted up, they hit the top of that bell curve and it stops, and their performance is absolute peak. It's Michael Jordan, that was Joe Montana, Tom Brady, Tiger Woods. These are people that are, the best at what they do. And that is what Steve Young is talking about, that he sees in Brock Purdy, which is something that should get all of us excited about as a quarterback. And Strawberry does say he grew up in Arizona. His wife's family owns a farm in Iowa.
Yeah.
So there's that. Yeah, and apparently his parents have a side gig as goat farmers. Man, they must have a lot of goat cheese out there. And
He may become the GOAT.
And I will say, I agree with this. Anyone who thinks LeBron is the GOAT needs to view the Dream Team documentary. Then you see that, or and yeah, I know he was a producer on it. Michael Jordan was, but The Last Dance, that was a great series talking about the '98 Bulls, but also the history of Michael and everything that had gone through there. You see, like, this is a guy that chose to only win 6 championships. They could have won more. And he could have had more in there, especially because he decided to go play baseball, which is a little weird. But we're not here to talk about Michael Jordan as much. We're talking about Brock Purdy, and I'm thankful he's our quarterback. I think that that we are in great hands with Brock Purdy. I've talked about him a lot, but that's what I think. Adam, when you think back to last year's playoffs, kind of what's some of the things that stick out to you from your memory on that?
So my thought was, anytime that we were losing last year in the playoffs, it was never, and I've had this feeling definitely before, was the panic button was hit and repeatedly hit. And with Brock Purdy, I will say, since he's been under center, I have not hit, even games that we flat out did lose. There was never a sense of panic, of like, oh, it's just not our day. I always thought, I was at Cleveland. There was no sense. I mean, especially he marched them down the field ready for a field goal. We won't even get into that. But like the Minnesota, like there was just times where I never really said, "Oh, we are going to lose this game." And in the playoffs was no different. That is the key thing that I remember. I can't tell you specific plays, okay, the fluke to Ayuk or whatever you're calling it. Um,
It's a
like
ladybug catch.
yeah, like that's fine. Like I don't remember all those plays. I don't remember, a key tackle on 3rd and 7 that we made to get the ball back or necessarily, but I do remember thinking, I think Brock's got this. We just need to settle in and he's got it. That's all. That's all I remember, honestly.
And I think sometimes then it's good for us to sometimes go back and take a look at exactly what it meant for Brock Purdy being somebody who was always calm. And I got to pull this up. For some reason it's not showing up right now on my restream ability. Where is it? There it is. Okay, it's back. These are some plays here from last year's playoffs. So this is when we talk about that ability to execute in the crunch time, in the time when it is absolutely most important to execute. This is what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to move us over here to the side a little bit. This is game-winning drive, essentially, against the Packers. 6.5 minutes left in the game. So again, a time when everything should be the most chaotic. This is 3rd and 5. So understand that right before this, we have to understand too how quickly he's going to process this stuff. So this is running at half speed, but understand that the 2 plays before this, the Packers had run cover 4. They'd run some palms and some cover 4, but it's mainly a cover 4 based. And so what you're going to see is Brock is coming out here and he's looking at these 2 safeties and saying, okay, what defense am I getting here? You're splitting out. He's got about 4 seconds to determine. He's got split safeties, but then watching, okay, the middle of the field is clearing out. So I'm getting bump man here. 2-man. So what does that mean for me? We got 2-man. We're in deep zones right here. So what does that mean for me? What he's got on one side is he's going to have a go route. He's going to have George Kittle on a seam route, or really it's a clear route. If you saw my latest route tree video, I talk about the clear route, and then he's got Christian McCaffrey on a choice route. So this is your zone beater versus what most people think about of a choice route as a man beater. But as I talked about in also my cover 3 video, it's really a zone beater a lot of times because there's different rules for which player. You have 2 different zone defenders. Depending on how a team is going to play a running back out of the backfield, they're either going to have a linebacker down the middle or the curl flat player protect the seam on this clear route. And so whoever takes that clear route, that determines where the choice route goes. It's not always a leveraged read against man coverage. This is one issue I have with some people, even some former NFL quarterbacks, who will criticize, why did they go this way on a choice route? That doesn't make sense, blah, blah, blah. Well, understanding the nuances of the defense of saying, okay, if they release out, it's just a straight release, then what you're going to see is this linebacker is going to run down the seam. So that means the curl flat player has to match the final number 3 on that side. And so we're going to break in. That's why it's a zone beater. Is that clearing route is meant to attack the matching rules down the seam and then give your running back a way to cut off of which player it is. So that's your zone beater up here. On the bottom side, we have a double slant here. So this is lion in West Coast terminology, and that can be your man coverage beater. It can also work against like cover 3 zone. If you're there, it can work against cover 4. That's where you want to look against it. But you really, if you're at 3rd and 5 and you have zone against the way the Packers are playing it, you really want this side. Against man, you want this side. So first thing he's got to do, he's got to see it's man coverage, so he knows he's going to this side. Now he's got to be able to read, where's my win going to be? I have off coverage with Jair Alexander on Juwan Jennings. That might be the win right there. But I've got a safety that's going to be coming over the top. So Jair Alexander is going to want to drive on this in breaking route because he knows he's got safety help back here. He's not as much worried about something coming down this way. So he's got to be able to see all of this in such a short period of time. Again, this is at half speed, and you're going to see it. See, Alexander, he's baiting him. He's ready to drive on that outside slant because he's got a safety. And we see they actually bring a safety down. They're rotating into cover one man. This is Robber with a 5-man rush. He's got to see all of this in such a short period of time that, oh, they're bringing 5. Boom. They're coming off the edge here with 5. That means I have nobody in the middle of the field. He sees this safety rotation. Look where his eyes are. He's looking at the safety rotation. That I've got a safety coming down. I've got a safety going back. That means I have no help right here because the safety's coming to pick up Christian McCaffrey. He moves to Ayuk. And look at the ball placement on this. 3rd and 5, biggest moment of the year. If the 49ers do not convert this play, their season is done, cooked. I mean, this is crazy processing. Look at him. He's looking down at the safeties. Sees it. Knows he's got middle of the field. He's going to go to Ayuk. Man coverage. Calm. Look at the ball placement. Low and away. That's what we talk. That's what Steve Young's talking about the ability to have that is a superpower to do that in the biggest moment of the year. This is the season. And then to come right back. Okay. So now Packers are coming out. They've got a safety sitting over the top on this side. They've got 2 guys deep. This is looking like possible cover 6. So you're expecting half field over here, quarters and quarters. And the way that the Packers play quarters coverage, a lot of times this guy's playing what's called man outside and deep. So anything that goes outside and deep, he's going to be man coverage on with outside leverage. So the 49ers actually have a bench concept here. So they have a bench route, and they're going to have a flat route, and then they're going to have a bench route. This is double concepts and a flat route. So they're wanting to attack cover 2, which you would think then you work this side, right? This is a cover 2 works really well, or bench works really well on cover 2 to put this player in a vertical stretch. But at the snap, safety drops down. They're in cover 3. So again, you go from he's going to want to work the wide side of the field against cover 2 to now he sees his safety is going to be late over. So what does that mean? That means this corner has to play this a little bit more down the numbers instead of outside the numbers, because he's got to give this safety time to come over in case George Kittle goes down the seam, or you have a seam route here. He's got to squeeze this more because the safety is a little bit slower to the rotation, being that it's a buzz rotation on this side. So what does that mean? You get this corner coming in. What we're going to do is we're going to then throw the bench route over here. This is to Chris Conley. This is not like your best receiver on the team. So he reads it, boom, hits his back foot, one hitch, balls out. Look at where he is when he starts his windup. He's starting his windup right now. Conley is going to roll this out to here. Again, why? Corners down the numbers. You know you got an advantage there. Safety's coming over late. So this corner has to play more inside. If you look on the other side, Jair Alexander is more head up, right? He's ready to drive on something outside. This is a deep understanding of the defense at this point, where that ball is perfect. Perfect throw against against the coverage that, again, is showing you something pre-snap. They're not showing you this pre-snap. They're showing something different. This looks right here like cover 6 all the way. That's what that looks like. And then have that rotation into cover 3. Drop that ball. Perfect location. Again, this is in the biggest moment of the year when there's a lot of quarterbacks who freeze up in these moments.
To a receiver who may not make the team, can I say that?
Yeah, I mean, Conley's a long shot, but look at the footwork. Boom, one hitch, balls out. I mean, when people talk about that Purdy doesn't have a rocket arm, he's got plenty of arm strength on it. He's got more than enough arm strength. So we've seen 2 different defenses, right? Back to back. Now we're going to bring a guy in motion. Nobody travels, makes it look like zone coverage. Again, what do you see here? You see really wide players underneath. This is looking like possible cover 4, possible cover 2. You're looking at either I'm going to have cover 2 or cover 4. That's what you're expecting here. Okay, if you have these corners in a cloud, these guys are a little wider. I would say this looks like cover 2. If I'm the quarterback and I walk up here, I'm expecting cover 2. So what do we have here? We have what's called the divide concept. So you're going to have that's McLeod on a post route, and you have Conley on a rail route. So that's ideally going to be putting the deep safety in a horizontal stretch, and then we're going to have George Kittle on a little out and whip back in. And so that's where he wants to work. He wants to work that. We're going to see how this goes at the snap. Now we see we're backing out. We're dropping down where this guy is dropping wide. So that tells you cover 6. You have cover 2 on this side. You have cover 4 on the other side. Again, the other, you have your player who would have been a hook. He's now down here in the flat. So that tells you have cover 4. So they've got this pretty well covered because now they're able to account for everything here. They're going to go deep. They're going to match down the middle. And now they have a player who can match here on George Kittle. So he wants to hit McLeod down here. That's what he wants to do because he's going to have Ayuk on a big dig here. And so he's going to look to grab this safety. And he does try and look this safety off for a sec. He wants to open up the middle of the field. He's going to hang on it. And he tries to let it develop. He's trying to let McLeod win on this to break inside of that safety. But he couldn't do it. So what does he do? Again, just calmly moves on. George Kittle, by holding this mic, it gives George Kittle a lot of space when he breaks back in. This is about timing, impeccable timing on when these routes need to go. Because then now you get George Kittle in space and he breaks a tackle and you get another first down. Again, look at what he's got to work through in this. He wants to go to that side. You get a look that you think is working there. Look at where his eyes are. He's looking out at these safeties. He sees it. He goes, okay, maybe we can get this post. I'm going to give it a chance. Nope. Once he sees the safety turn, he knows he's going to check it down. Has held the mic by looking that direction. Didn't move on too quick. Didn't move on too late. It's just flawless execution. It seems so simple, and people would say, well, it's check down. When you're in the biggest moment of the game and you still get 9 yards on first down, that's a big deal.
Yeah, no kidding.
And again, to do this in the speed he does.
Right.
Let's just watch this from the end zone in real time. Again, I always slow it down because it's easier to watch, but people forget how quickly this stuff moves.
Yeah.
There's looking the safety. There it is. Makes decision. That is what we talk about when we say Brock Purdy has a superpower, that he has an ability to execute at a really high level at the biggest moments of the game. So that's what Steve Young is talking about, and that's why I love watching it and then being able to go into the film and say this is exactly there, and Steve knows what he's talking about. So yeah, he was a making big time quarterback throws at big time moments in games.
So moving forward, like we're so excited because this is the type of thing that Kyle Shanahan salivates over because there's growth every year. And so, as Havachi says, Purdy has not had an off season as the starter. You look at the injury before he was third string quarterback. Like this is the first year, and Shanahan, speaking to Shanahan, has mentioned that how excited he is that this is his first real regular, not working through an arm thing, not working through the depth chart. And so the growth of him I'm so excited to see on display that Monday Night Football against the Jets, and just moving forward with the season, just excited for his growth, because when you have that as your base, it's only going to get, you know, even better. And Strawberry reacts, wait, Steve Young, maybe he knows a little something about the quarterback position. I mean, it's not mind-blowing stuff when you say that when someone in a nerve-wracking situation can remain calm and make the right decision, that yeah, that team is going to do well. Like that wasn't rocket surgery what I just said either, right? I mean, but we have to respond to all this hate, I guess, like uh people are just like, well, he's got all these weapons. Oh, they drafted a first round wide receiver for him. Like, oh gosh, what else does this guy get?
Yeah, I mean, what does Jalen Hurts have? He has a guy who literally just is the highest paid wide receiver in the league, and has another high first round pick at wide receiver. I mean, he's got the best offensive line in the league, but I don't hear people sitting here saying, Jalen Hurts has so many of these weapons around him. Of course he's going to be successful, because you know what? He wasn't that successful last year. And
Yeah.
imagine if Brock Purdy went
And
into
in
this
crunch
year and
time, yeah.
had the same season that Jalen Hurts had this year. People would be all over him of that he's been figured out, that he doesn't have it, that he's washed up, that the book is in on him. It proves he was just a fluke. That's what everybody would say about Brock Purdy if he has the same season that Jalen Hurts had this last year. Jalen Hurts didn't have a terrible season, but obviously the Eagles were a mess down the stretch last year.
Yeah. He
So
definitely came down to earth.
yeah, and so I don't see that happening with Purdy, as Strawberry said. This time last year, he was throwing towels. Like he was there, doing the towel exercise to just to get his arm in a place where he could throw. He wasn't supposed to be ready to go until halfway through October,
Right.
and he still set the franchise record for most passing yards in a season.
No big deal, but he's obviously just a game manager. I love seeing I see so many now because my algorithm knows that I'm a 49er fan. So I'd love to give credit where it's due, but I don't know who it is that keeps showing these plays on Instagram reels, and it says, imagine calling this guy a game manager. And it's like crunch time passes, like a slant, like right on the money, and this and that and all this stuff. And it might be 49er edits on Instagram, but I love seeing that, like all these great plays, and then saying, imagine calling this guy a game manager. And speaking of managing, I am a game manager of this show. As I tell you, the best way to help the channel out is always to go up to a 49er fan. I enjoy sharing stories where I get to do it personally, because in Indiana it doesn't happen a lot. But sure enough, this weekend, I this is where I have to admit I was at Applebee's. Please don't crush me. It's down the street from my studio, guys. I promise. It's not. It was late night. They have half price apps. Do not blast me, please.
Oh man, when I was in college, those half priced apps were the thing, man. You could go
It's
there
life.
and you got a drink and half priced apps, and you
Wonton
were good for
tacos.
college
So I
life.
do
Yeah,
not
it was all
love
about the nachos, man. The half, when you could get those nachos half price. I mean, come on, I can't blame
wings.
you there.
I don't love patronizing places that are big chains and stuff. Personally, I just don't enjoy it. But again, it's down the street. I went and I was talking to someone, just shooting the breeze, and the guy, I mentioned the 49ers. I find a way to get the 49ers into most conversations. I don't know how I do that, but and the guy's like, wait a minute, I love the 49ers since Joe Montana, blah blah blah. I took his phone. I said, I'm gonna show you something, and I subscribed for him, and I showed him the channel. He's like, "Oh, that's dope. That's so awesome. Very cool." So Scruffy Nerd ain't no shame in his game, I guess. Scruffy Nerd does like Applebee's. So y'all can blast him. Don't blast me. But so that is the best way to support the channel. I say that. And remember that you can listen wherever you get your podcast, but the most fun way, obviously, is to watch on YouTube. So also the second best way I would say to support is remember that we have the website, and we're going to talk more about that because I mentioned earlier at the beginning that we are going to go through a little something, kind of a surprise here, a little hidden thing for you at jfa49.com. That is the website. Be sure to hit that up. We are Dr. Steve, I've shamed the Marino name. Yes. I love the chat. Can I just say that? So we're gonna go into some stuff on the website that you can only see here, and we invite you to look at the different levels of tiers. Not don't shed a tear, but tiers as levels, and you can check out the website. But Johnny has some film to go over, and yes, okay, we can talk a little bit longer. I mean, I guess the quesadilla burger does go hard on Mondays. I do remember they had their burger special where it was like $8 for burger and fries. Like in today's world, that's a pretty good deal. They do have the 2 for whatever. It was 2 for 20, but it's higher now, I think. I don't know. That's pretty much all I got for Applebee's. Oh,
The
and that
chat,
song.
the
And
chat.
that song. What's the song? Can we sing it?
You're thinking of
Applebee's on.
Chili's.
No, 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 no,
I
no,
was
no.
thinking
There's
Chili's.
a famous song now that with the whipped cream and the someone type out the lyrics. I'm not crazy. Okay, that's debatable. Gosh, this is gonna be made into a TikTok of me saying I'm not crazy. Someone's gonna like screen grab this. But no, there is
Yeah.
something like Applebee's and a Oreo shake and it's like a country song.
No
I'm not
idea what
into
you're talking
country.
about. Yeah. Well, so when I don't have a lot of normal TV anymore. Most of us are streaming a lot of things now. So
Right.
I miss a lot of the commercials. I don't see a lot of Applebee's commercials. We only have one around us. I've never been there. I think I've been there once. I've been to an Applebee's like twice in the last 7 years. It's just not as much my thing. And especially, I don't know about you, I'm getting really tired of the quality of food. That it's like you go anywhere and you pay $800,000 for real not good food. It's
Yeah.
just it's getting
Microwave.
terrible. Well, I mean, like so my wife and I were given some gift cards not too long ago to a very large reputable steakhouse, and we went there and we're going to enjoy the gift that somebody gave us, and we were so disappointed in the food. I mean, it was I got a steak and it was gray with some black lines on it and had almost no seasoning on it. It was just terrible. I'm sitting here going, this was not worth. I think in the end, we had gift cards and we didn't pay for anything, but it still is like $75 what we would have paid. I'm going, this is not worth $75 at all.
Yeah.
And especially hard too, because as I've talked about on this channel, I've switched over and I get all my proteins now, all my meats from White Oak Pastures, and they're a great affiliate with us. You can go to whiteoakpastures.com/GD49 and you can check them out. That they're the quality of food there is so much better. I got some hanger steak with them, which you might also be known as butcher's steak. It's a steak that is you have to go to a butcher to get it because a cow only produces one. And so it's not feasible to keep it in a supermarket. You have to go to a butcher to get it, or a meat supplier directly. But it's as tender as a filet mignon, and it has the same flavor as a ribeye. And I got it from White Oak Pastures. They sell a 2.5 pound hanger steak for $38, and that's shipped to your door. there. And I will tell you, it is one of the best steaks in the world. You do have to, there's a little connective tissue in there you have to remove. You might want to watch a YouTube video on it. Not my channel. I don't show how to do that kind of stuff. But all I did, salt and pepper, cooked it medium rare in a cast iron skillet. And it's not even close to what I spent $75 for at another place. They're absolutely amazing. And I will say the burgers, because Kali asked about Five Guys. Five Guys is okay, but it's another thing. I mean, you're going to spend a $20 bill for one person at Five Guys.
Right.
Because they're going to have all those add-ons with just to get fries. It's a good burger, but from White Oak Pastures, I order what's called their piggyback blend. So it is their grass-fed, grass-finished beef, and they mix in some of their Iberico pork fat into it. So Iberico pigs are a special breed of pig. They're a Spanish national treasure. They're actually on the national treasure list by the government of Spain. They only have allowed a handful of herds of Iberico pigs to be let out of Spain to be raised anywhere else because the requirements of growth are extremely strict. They cannot have any animal alterations of any kind. They must be pasture raised. They must be forage fed. They have to spend their entire lifetime outside. They can't be given any growth hormones. You cannot use any pesticides and herbicides on the land that they are raised on. And so White Oak Pastures was the first farm in the United States to get an Iberico herd. And Iberico pigs are known for their omega-9s, which is a linoleic acid. Or oleic acid, excuse me. Oleic acid, linoleic can turn into a free radical in your body, but oleic acid does not do that. It's a very healthy fatty acid, and so you get this great pork fat flavor into it, and it's good for you. It's a good fat. It's a dietary fat. In with that grass-fed, that really rich beef flavor, and it makes some of the best burgers in the world. And I'll tell you, it kicks the snot out of even Five Guys. I cook them on my grill, a little bit of salt and pepper, and that's it. And they are some of the best burgers. They're juicy, amazing, and I get mine from White Oak Pastures. And guess what? Per burger, I'm spending a quarter of what I do at Five Guys. So, and it tastes better. So, you can go to whiteoakpastures.com/JD49. Check them out. They have some just amazing food options there. I love their pork sausages. I've never had anything from them that I'm like, I don't know. I just cooked a tri-tip roast with them. It came out absolutely amazing. Was awesome. No, the next breakdown video, route tree, is not going to be connective tissue removal. But we do have a little bit of a sneak peek here for those who may have been on the fence about joining the members website. I've been really working on pumping out some exclusive content here. We've got 2 out of 3 of the route tree videos done. I'm working on the 3rd one. Figured out a lot of my my technical issues. I just basically started using a different camera, and that solved a lot of problems that I was having with it videoing the whiteboard. I had to record that one like 4 times. But I've been also going through defensive coverages, and the last video I did, I started working through the wide 9 front. That's something that is a front that we use, and how that starts working with all the different coverages and stuff. And so here's a little sneak peek on some of that into then working through some game film. Number 3, well, now how do you change this if you're not going with a run heavy defense, right? If you're going, say, cover 2 and you have 2 safeties back, okay, you have a safety out here and a safety out here, and now your corners start to play a little bit more of a role in here. Whereas in cover 3, your corners are going to be off a little bit, and we're going to keep them back. They're going to be late to the party, kind of. What you do now is you say, my corners are going to be my primary force players. So what we mean by force is they're the last player on the outside to force the play back inside. So if we're able to use our corners as primary force players, that allows us. So this is one reason too with wide 9 you tend to run Tampa, is because where that leaves you susceptible is, say they run a play action out here, they're going to run a receiver, try and hit him up this sideline, because now you have more space created because this corner has to come up. So your safety's got to go cover a little bit wider. So what do? You say, well, we're going to run our safeties really wide, and now Fred Warner is going to be a match down the middle of the field where we're opening up. So this is how you compare those two two defenses together to still end up getting good run support, because with these guys as primary force, now your defensive ends don't have to attack so wide. He's going to look to attack the outside shoulder of this tight end if it's a run and drive him inside, while we have inside fill, you have a gap fill, you have a gap fill, gap fill, gap fill outside, and then you have your force defenders. Different. We're in the wide 9, again, condensed split. So they're going to do this. So again, he's here, you have here, and then now you have out here, and then Fred Warner is going to be backside pursuit. So that's where this does change a little bit now that it's directionally based, because these safeties don't play a role in these fits as much anymore, because they do have to protect against deep outside. So you don't get quite the support. Now, depending on who that safety is, you can still get support. I think Hufanga here does give some good support on this, but it's about where is their primary responsibility. And you can see, boom, here goes Gibson backing out. Hufanga's ready to back out. That does make them a little bit slower to come up and fill for the run.
So one thing that there's a couple things that, first of all, before I get to the two things that popped up as I'm looking at that, keep in mind, this is the type of content that you are going to see when you become a member. So remember to go to jfa49.com. The link is in the description. And so you can always check out the website there, be a part of the community. Thanks to all those. Many of them are right here in this very chat. Speaking of chat, remember to hit hashtag JD49 if you have not boosted the algorithm already. All right, now to the two things regarding watching this quick video. The first thing that hit me was when you talk about the DBs and them kind of crunching down, pinching, keeping things inside. I immediately thought, as a fan, okay, well, Johnny, who comes to mind as far as players that were in our organization who led to some of our success because that they did this well? Who are guys that come to mind?
Well, specifically that sort of coverage in that front would be Richard Sherman, as somebody who could be an outside force defender. Richard Sherman was not just a cover 3 corner. He was also an incredible cover 2 corner, in that when you asked him to be that primary force defender in run support, then he was big and he was physical and he was able to do that. And we saw the success that the 49ers had with him, even in his latter years as he had lost a step, what he was able to do because he was so physical in that run support kind of role. This was not a Deion Sanders kind of a defense there where you were expecting Deion to come up and make some tough tackles and force everything back inside. When I think about safeties, I think about somebody who played in the original version, the OG Tampa 2, which Tampa 2 I talked about in my coverages video. Tampa gets its name from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is that Tony Dungy devised the Tampa 2 defense while he was there in Tampa Bay. And he had two guys that really helped make that defense shine. That was Derek Brooks as his will linebacker, and then John Lynch as a safety. And John Lynch being able to both be able to cover that deep, but also react and have the closing speed on that run support from that really deep outside safety was special. And so, that just kind of makes their sense there as far as what happened in the 49ers. Then, we run Tampa a lot, and John Lynch being somebody who knows that defense, the ins and outs of it very, very well, knows what it takes as far as for safeties to be able to play that. And I think that's why the 49ers have had a pretty good track record under John Lynch of drafting safeties. I think, when you look at Hufanga, has been a very good safety. Jair Brown had a very good rookie year. And Tayshaun Gibson coming in as a free agent who hadn't done a whole lot in his career, had been a solid safety, comes in with the 49ers, is a really good safety. And then obviously them going and picking Mustafa. So they feel really good about him. So
yeah, I'm excited.
That's what comes to mind with all of that and the 49ers and their wide 9.
So then the second thing is, as you show, like a running back coming out, or offensively now speaking, I immediately think of Miami. I think going into this year, Houston could be a team that is dynamic on offense. I am a bit of a homer, as I do want, um, I want the Jets. I want the Houston. I want Houston. I want Miami to be a little bit successful, unless they play us, of course. But I like D'Amico, so I think of Houston's offense being dynamic this year. But Miami, I just definitely think Miami, as far as what a team that can do well sometimes against this type of thing. Why is that?
Well, so well, a really good example would be Miami versus Denver, right? That's exactly what we're talking about here. And what I was talking about in this specific area is this wide 9 front with cover 2 behind it, and that's what Denver played a lot against Miami. They were going to say, we're not going to or we're not going to give up the deep pass, and we're going to go cover 2 and stay in that. And Miami went and hung 70 on them. Well, why? What makes Miami so good against that? Well, I think because the problem that Denver had was they went into that game with a completely backwards idea of how to attack Miami and their offense, because Miami's offense has so much speed. So what I was talking about, that where it really stresses in that run support is going to be on those safeties, because they've got to cover really wide and deep. And then where to cover 2, and I talked about it a little bit later in that video, was where cover 2 is really weak against the run is inside the outside guys. So basically between the numbers is where cover 2 can be softer against the run. And it's really much more susceptible between the hashes and the numbers if we have the ball in the middle of the field, kind of that area, because that's where those safeties have to fit. And so what Miami is so good at is they have so much speed coming from the running back positions and the wide receiver positions, that if those safeties are just hesitant and miss one way or the other, if say they drop too far back and they're late to run support in a run in that area, and you remember, if you go back and watch that Miami Denver game, they had so many off tackle runs outside the tackles, inside the wide receivers, that hit that lane and they're gone, and they're running for 50, 60 yards because those safeties are just a little bit late on that. They have so much speed from the running back position. If they're too aggressive in a run fit, and then now you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle who are streaking down the sidelines. So that's what happened all throughout that game. And Denver just never really decided this is a really bad matchup of trying to be cover 2 in what we do. They would have been much better off trying to say, we will lose another way, because this is the worst way for us to lose. And so that's where you see a team like Miami can exploit that so well. Now, again, Miami is a team that is built to attack cover 2. We are a team that is built to attack cover 3, because we see that so much more, and we lean into it so much more. So our runs are designed to kind of force teams into cover 3, and we don't necessarily always attack the edge, the far outsides as much. We're going to attack down the middle. We're going to attack on the edges, in that kind of intermediate areas. And so teams love to go cover 3. So a lot of our passing game is about attacking cover 3s and cover 4s. We don't have as much against cover 2s as we do, but it's not like that is not where our offense is based around. Whereas Miami said, we're going to go get Tyreek Hill. We're going to have Jalen Waddle. Teams are going to have to keep safeties deep. And now we build our entire offense around sort of seeing that and how things play into each other. So, they're similar, very, very similar offenses, but they are philosophically, from the way they're built up, a bit different.
Yeah, I love to see the just the breakdown of that. So again, guys, when you head to the website, that's what you can count on is different breakdowns that Johnny will go over. We're going to be adding more stuff. There's more exciting content that will be on there as well, that we will announce in due time. We're kind of in the middle of working on it and having a lot of fun, Johnny and I together, doing some stuff. So we'll keep you posted on that. Johnny, do you want to possibly on Friday go over the
So
schedule? Or what are you thinking?
Can't do that Friday. We'll have to talk a little bit after the show here on what my
Okay.
schedule this week, because a week from today I am headed out of the country. I am headed to Belize, not on a vacation trip. People often are gonna be thinking that going to work with some kids down there in Belize as part of a work trip. So not headed to there for vacationing on the shores of Belize, but I'll have talked to you a little bit about what my schedule is going to look like this week. We are going to be trying to get John and Wayne here, hopefully Wednesday or Thursday, to finish up our draft grading, like post-draft grading series. We've been having a great time. It's been a fun time. A lot of people here have seen us there with John and Wayne. We talked about it off air. John Wayne Wayne, John, and I about how much we've enjoyed doing this series together, and how much we need to do a lot more stuff together. And so we've been going through the past 49ers drafts under Kyle Shanahan and getting an idea. And it's been really fascinating to look at the progression, and you can start to see patterns and shifts in their transition. And Wayne, it was hilarious. He talked about it, that he had been trying to figure out how the 49ers draft for so long. And every guy that he had is like a guy he was sure the 49ers were going to draft. Adam Peters drafted. And so he had gotten really into Adam Peters' head, from the 49ers. But we're going to be finishing that up, looking at the 2022 and 2023 drafts as that it was really fascinating going back and again, looking at that 2021 draft. I think if you went into, say, September of 2022, or even September of 2023, you would say that 2021 draft was awful, because it was Trey Lance, was there. But if you actually look at that draft, the 49ers really pulled 4 big-time contributors out of that draft. And it was interesting to then think about, okay, is this draft still a bust? Because just because Trey Lance didn't work out in that draft, but you still got a guy like Deommodore Lenoir. How does that balance in there? You get Brock Purdy the next year. It's fascinating to really think about and look at and say, what you got a Juwan Jennings in that draft. You got Aaron Banks in that draft. So, how does that wash out? You get 3 guys who have been big time contributors for your team, but you did whiff on that big first round guy at quarterback.
Struck out bad with the bases loaded in the 9th
So
inning.
how do you grade that? Is that, can you say it was a D because you missed on Trey Lance when you pulled 3 starter, kind of caliber guys? Really, 3 starters? I mean, nickel or third wide receivers a starter these days. You pulled 3 starters out of the draft. That's a win for anybody. But you can't say it was like an A-. You can't say it was a B+ because you whiffed so hard on Trey Lance. So this has been fun to look at and look at then how some of their draft strategies have changed over the years from some of the scars that they've built. So it's been really fun. We're going to finish that series up hopefully this week.
Yeah, very cool. Remember to take a look at the channel on YouTube and go through prior episodes and catch some of those. They're really fun to go through. Also, big shout out to powerbrandsystems.com. They were talking about the website. They do both John Chapman's website, and they do JFA49.com for us as well. And they work on a lot of other things. So if you have questions regarding getting your brand out there, either through website or other things as well, make sure you go to powerbrandsystems.com. Shout out to Christian for helping us out. Great dude. And so, yes. And there on the screen is a little bit of what Power Brand Systems does. Again, great partner for us. And so, yes, we will. The big thing with this channel is because I'll let you guys know, Johnny works with kids quite a bit, and which means that Johnny doesn't make a lot of money. And so the super chats, all of these things that you guys do, and he would not push me to do this. He didn't know that I was going to do this. It just came to me right now to do it as we close the show. These mean a lot because I am just here to support him. And because I really was a true fan of this freaking channel. And so I'm just here as a front row spectator and being part of this community. But the super chats and the different things that you guys do, it really does help his family and his beautiful wife Dawn, who's in the chat always with us, and his children. When you work with kids, whether you're a teacher, whether you're whatever that you do, you guys know that it is not well paid. It just flat out is not. And so Johnny would never come on here and ask himself, but that's why he has a friend in me that can just do it just off the cuff sometimes. And so every once in a while, I like to point that out. Yeah, Randy Newman. And so, yes, just as a friend, I'm saying, guys, that when you do things for the channel, that you really are helping Johnny's family and you're really helping him do what he loves to do, take these trips and work with the kids. And so, just wanted to point that out and make sure that you guys knew that. And speaking of the channel, that's a big reason because of that, all that to say, you got to have your notifications turned on because sometimes we go at different times because Johnny has a family, Johnny works with kids a lot, and that can tug him a different way. Sometimes I can't be on because I thought we would do it this day and then we can't. So I'm not always around, whatever. So we always thank you for bearing with us just based on the situation. But if you have your notification bell turned on, then you'll know, like, oh, these guys are going here pretty soon. So again, thanks for just the support and the patience and everything. We're excited going into this off season and heading into the regular season here very soon. It's going to come up quickly. So in the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you, Callie, just for a quick, awesome little super chat that he says thank you
He
for
got
all
it in
you
there at
do.
the end.
He got it in there at the end. Man, Callie, thanks, dude. Like, really appreciate you. So again, as I said, stay safe, stay healthy, and go Niners.